Hello and welcome back. In order to help round out your understanding of blockchains, I want to take a break from discussing Bitcoin right now and discuss some of the other uses that blockchains may have in the future so that you really understand the blockchain concept and grasp that it's about more than just cryptocurrency. As I mentioned earlier, to be of any use to us, then the information stored in a blockchain has to represent something in the real world. Money was the first thing controlled by a blockchain with the invention of Bitcoin. But as you now know, your Bitcoin is just data stored on a blockchain. So you can use a blockchain to store any type of data, not just numbers which represent money. If you recall, when we discussed hashing, we said that any data can be hashed. So as an example, here is the deed to my home. Well, actually a former home, represented as a hash. If I wanted to, I could store this on a blockchain quite easily, and because it's encrypted, the details are completely private. However, there's no point me storing the deed to my home on a blockchain unless there's a good reason to do so. So let's just pretend for a minute that where you live, property deeds are stored on blockchains. How might that change the way that we buy and sell property today? Well, today, the house buying process requires lawyers or notaries to search property and bank databases to ensure that the house is actually able to be bought and sold. We need architects and surveyors to approve the transaction and banks to approve mortgages. Usually then a lawyer will write up a contract which exchanges the deed to a home to you in exchange for a payment from you or your bank to the seller. If you've ever been through this process, then you know that it's expensive, time-consuming, frustrating, and often very stressful. Let's see how blockchains might be able to help. Imagine at some point in the near future, you're shopping for a new home, but instead of wasting every weekend viewing properties all around town, you use a virtual reality headset to look at images of property from the comfort of your own living room. And this has got nothing to do with blockchains, by the way, but wouldn't that be cool? You virtually view 20 or so properties and then decide on a few to visit in person before you arrive at a final decision on which one you want to buy. The country where you live is very technologically advanced and has placed every property ownership deed in that country on a blockchain. Therefore, every property owner has direct control of the deed to their home. You don't need notaries or lawyers to access the records. You do so yourself with your private key. So in our scenario, you find a home you want to buy, and then you and the owner sit down and agree on a price. At which point, you pull out your phones and make the exchange there and then, using a blockchain designed purely to enable property transfers to take place that take into account mortgage and architect approvals, tax payment, and all of that bureaucracy. There is no need, in theory, for lawyers, notaries, and bank managers to be involved. And because it's on a blockchain, the transaction is unhackable. It cannot be changed in any way afterwards. Now, understandably, this might sound like science fiction to you, but I want you to consider that all of the technology to allow this to happen actually exists today and is readily available. The only thing missing are the laws, the regulations, and the processes to actually allow this to happen. And of course, the willingness to put a system like this in place in the first place. Because a system like this would actually remove a lot of work and revenue from an awful lot of people that currently make their living moving property from one person to another. This is one example of how blockchains can disrupt business as we know it by removing inconvenient, cumbersome, expensive go-betweens from a transaction. If your job is to help people make transactions, but you don't actually add value to the process, you just help two people perform some kind of complex administrative process, then beware of blockchains. They could really disrupt your industry. It is coming. Finally, I'm going to discuss one last concept which can confuse people at first, and that is, why is Bitcoin worth anything at all? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. Bitcoin, like any asset, is worth money, and by money I mean regular fiat bank issued currency like the dollar, because there is a market of other people willing to pay you a particular price for your Bitcoin. In order to buy Bitcoin, you send your dollars, your pounds, or whatever currency you use to a cryptocurrency exchange, which is a website that has an account on the Bitcoin blockchain. Registered on this exchange are many other users who want to sell Bitcoin at different prices. They deposit their Bitcoin at the exchange's account on the blockchain, and they tell the exchange what price to sell their Bitcoin at. You then request to buy some Bitcoin, and the exchange will sell you that Bitcoin at the best price available and charge you a small fee for doing so. You can then choose to leave your Bitcoin on deposit at the exchange or transfer it to your own wallet address on the blockchain. It's considered best practice to always transfer Bitcoin to your own wallet address after you've bought it. When it comes time to sell your Bitcoin, you go back to the exchange and transfer your Bitcoin to the exchange. The exchange then sells your Bitcoin to the first available customer that is prepared to pay the price you asked for it, and then they transfer you the proceeds of the sale to your bank account. This is exactly the same as going up to the change desk at an airport and giving them one currency to exchange for another. The exchange performs the exchange and charges you a fee for doing so. So it is this ready market to pay fiat currency for Bitcoin that gives Bitcoin its value. And supply and demand set the price in the same way as they do for any other tradable asset. In a nutshell, Bitcoin is worth money because there are people interested in buying and selling it. Well, that's it for this lesson. As always, thank you very much for your time. And when you're ready, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much indeed.